everyone, it's Lindsay and I'm back today with a tutorial but more of a refresher where I'm going to combine some digital stamping techniques to create a whole scene. So I'm in Photoshop Elements and I have a blank new project open that is 4 inches by 5¼ inches. I'm going to start off by placing on this Berry Pickin' digital stamp. This is from Craft and Desert Divas. And many of you may already have this. It was given away for free, as was this little Raking Fall Fun guy. He was given away for free too. So if you happen to pick both of these up, you can combine them together to make a nice little scene. I'm also going to bring in some images from the Fall Haul digital stamp set. And these are all from Craft and Desert Divas. They're all 99 cents. So about $3 worth of stamps that I'll be using to make this entire card panel. So I'm just placing these on this panel, and I want the little bear to look like she is in front of the little guy that's raking leaves. So I am placing her further down towards the bottom of the panel. And then I also made the little guy raking his leaves just a tiny bit smaller. Now I'm bringing in some of these images from the Fall Haul stamp set. Now this has some great images to really just fill in your scene. So I'm going to bring in this little mushroom and then I'll start duplicating this guy. And that is what I did with my layering stamps tutorial. I just duplicated layers and combined them and made them overlap. And I'm doing that with these mushrooms to make them look like they're in a little group. I'm not going to fill up the entire card panel with them this time, but this is just on a smaller scale, that technique. I wanted a group of 3 mushrooms, so I will duplicate this one again and put it right down there in the middle of the 2 and make it a little bit smaller. And that is one of the keys to doing this technique and making them look like they're all different. Just make them different sizes. You can alter them just a little bit too by rotating them if you wanted to. I kept mine all straight and just made them sized a little bit smaller. I'm also going to put a couple little mushrooms on the right hand side in the bottom right hand corner. And I'm also going to put this pumpkin. Now when I put it down, it comes out quite large. That's okay, I can scale it all down. And then I will end up putting it behind that little mushroom. Now I'm using all 3 of these stamp sets. And the one thing they have in common is they are all fall themed. So you don't want to just throw stamps together and try and make them work. You want them all to have the same kind of theme. So that is fall in this case. I'm also bringing in another pumpkin on that right hand side, and I just made it a little baby pumpkin. So I made it really small. Now I want to bring in some acorns. Now these come in quite large again, and I am really scaling these down. They're going to end up being quite tiny. And whenever I do something this small, as in this acorn, I need to zoom in so I can see exactly where it's going. So don't be scared to really zoom in and really get in there and make sure that you have it the right size and that you have the placement right. So just zoom in. You can always zoom back out and look at the whole picture and make sure it looks the way you want it to. So I'm putting quite a few of these little acorns down just to fill in around that basket of grapes, and then I'll also put some in to fill in around the little mushrooms and pumpkins. And wherever I think there is too much white space, I just go and I start placing images. This little mushroom, I wanted a mushroom next to the grape basket. However, I didn't like it in front of those grapes. So I will just drag that layer down until it is behind there. So just the top peeks out over the top. You can still tell it's the mushroom stamp, but it's in a different arrangement from the other one. So it just adds interest and depth and really makes it look as if it belongs there. So you will see I will start to zoom back out again, and I use my trackpad to zoom in and out. It just makes it a lot easier for me than using my magnifying tool in the actual program. So I just kind of pull my fingers apart when I want to zoom in and pinch them together when I want to zoom back out. So I'm putting just a few little acorns on the right hand side here to fill in that little pumpkin and mushroom scene, and I put about 3 in. Now again, I'm making these different sizes. I'm rotating these, making sure they don't look the same. And That's what's really great about this small little acorn image. I can just throw these right in there like I'm doing on the left hand side now, and it fills in all that white space. So it doesn't look so awkward just having mushrooms right there in the center. It gives it almost a grounding technique. Now I'm just making sure I have all the layers arranged the way I want them to. And then once I'm happy with this, I want more leaves to look as if they are falling. So the first thing I needed to do was go ahead and duplicate my little Raking Fall Fun digital stamp. So I found that stamp in my layers. I duplicated it by right clicking and clicking duplicate layer. Then I'm using my lasso tool to go around this little leaf image. Once I have the dancing lines, I will right click it and click layer via copy. Now that leaves me with my own little leaf image that I can manipulate and place and duplicate however many times I want to, and just continue to fill up this panel. Now I put some on the ground, and I'm also going to put some behind these little guys that are in my my little panel here as well, and that will just allow for a more unifying look, because whenever leaves fall, it's the same thing with snow. They don't just fall behind your focal points, they also fall in front. So you want to make sure you have some in front, not too many, but some, and then you also want some behind so it looks more three-dimensional. So I am just duplicating this leaf layer, flipping it around, rotating it, making it smaller, making it larger, and I will just fill up all of this white space in the top of the panel. I really wanted a true fall scene, so he needs something that looks like he's raking up something. So if leaves aren't falling, he has nothing to rake up. So it just kind of finishes the scene off to fill up this panel with the falling leaves, and it makes it look more true fall scene. Now I kept all of my leaves separate, so I didn't overlap any of my falling leaves together. If you really wanted to add more dimension and more interest to your panel, you could do that. You can layer these leaves up to where it looks like a couple are falling closer together and make one smaller than the other one, and that will add a lot of dimension. I kept mine single layer here and just filled in this top quarter of my panel. You can also control and then click on layers on your panel if you wanted to duplicate 3 leaves at one time, and that will be faster in filling up your panel. I like the control of doing one at a time, but if you needed to do this a little bit quicker, you can hit your control key on your keyboard, either click on the layer on your actual panel or on your layers tab on the right hand side, and you can link up layers and then duplicate them all at once and move them around all at once as well as a group. And that's a great way to get this done a little bit quicker. But like I said, I like the control of doing it one at a time. So I am just going to finish up putting these last little leaf layers on there. And then I decided that I wanted to add in the little bird from the Fall Haul stamp set, but I didn't know exactly where to place him. So I decided to put him on the little grapes down below. So I first needed to go up to the File tab and click the Place button, which I will do in just a moment after I'm done with all my little leaves. I was going to actually fill in the rest of the scene with the little leaf from the berry picking image, but I ended up not liking it, so I didn't even use that duplicated layer of the berry picking that I just did. But I did bring in this little bird from the Fall Haul digital stamp, and I scaled it down very small, and I placed it right on top of those berries. Now this is one of those times where I really needed to look at the layers to make sure this was all going according to plan and that nothing looked out of place here. Because I didn't put this down first, it was a little bit more difficult to figure out the layer situation, but it worked out in the end. Then, once I was done with everything, I gave my panel one last look over, and I thought my leaves were looking a little bit too much like a pattern. So I went back in and I just click on them on the actual panel so I know I've got the right layer, and I just move them a little bit here and there. I moved some closer together, some further apart, a little bit more white space here and there, just for a more random look. Now, once I was happy with the way my leaves looked, I decided I wanted to go in and add a horizon line. So I went over on the left-hand side on my shape tool. I chose the line. I made it 3 pixels and the color black. Now I'm just going to draw a straight line across, and because this is closest to the background layer, it's going to be behind everything, so I don't need to worry about the placement of it. Once I had my horizon line on, I was happy with the placement of everything. I went in and first of all, I flattened my image. That makes it so much more easy to save. And then I went up and I saved this in my little fall haul folder that I have on my computer. I saved it in there first in case I messed up because I didn't want to redo the whole thing again. And then I printed off with my laser printer. I wanted to color in my scene with my colored pencils. This is a lot to do and it took a long time, so I didn't do all of it on camera. I actually took it with me a few places, did it in the car, just did it while I had a few minutes to sit down here and there. So all of it is not on camera, but I do want to show you. When I first start out with my colored pencils, I put down quite a few colors here and there, and then I'll bring in my blending solution and my blending stump and blend this color out, add more shadow and more depth in. And I want to show you the difference between blending this out and just leaving it as is. You can see right here I haven't done any blending on the tail, but I blended out his little face, and the amount that changes and the stroke marks alone is just amazing to me. So I always try and blend out my colored pencils if I don't have the time to sit down and really blend them out by hand. So I was going to put this on an A2 top folding white card base, but I decided that was a little bit too plain for me. So I took a burnt orange ink and I colored my white card base, and I just went around the edges, did a little cheat because I didn't want to cut a new card base. I applied some double-sided adhesive to the back of my colored panel, and then I just popped it on that card base. You do want to make sure that your ink is nice and dry before you try to adhere that, or the adhesive won't stick to the wet ink. And that finished off my card for today. I did leave this blank. I didn't add a sentiment, but it's one of those cards that when I need it, I can pull it out, pop on a sentiment, anyone I want, and it'll work for any occasion. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'm just going to leave you with a few pictures. For more information and the supply list, you can head over to my blog, craftingwhilecaffeinated.wordpress.com. The link is in the description box below. Thank you for watching today, and happy crafting.